We missed the opening, but that's okay. This is Hal Feldman. The MiamiHal Real Estate Show is live and on the air, and we have our special guest, Karyn Cunningham, the mayor of Palmetto Bay.
I can hum a few bars.
Yeah, I think that would have helped. Anyway, I have you here periodically because we always want to stay in touch with what's going on in Palmetto Bay, and what better person to talk to than the mayor, who oversees everything that's going on. And you get blamed a lot of times, but you also do a lot of good things too, right?
That's okay. That's what we sign up for.
As mayor, yeah, it's the target that you wanted and signed up for, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The reason why, again, I do this for my audience is because everything about real estate, they say location, location, location. Well, one of the locations that I service is Palmetto Bay, and there's always a lot of things going on there. Palmetto Bay incorporated in what year, Karyn?
Oh my goodness, this is going to be a test. 2002?
I didn't think it was going to be a test question. You're pretty good at that stuff. So, in essence, Palmetto Bay is young.
Yeah, it's a baby city.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe teenage. I think we're moving out of our infant stage, teenage, into the teenage stage.
Yeah, and actually, I'm going to flip things around a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a young community who just had a great distinction bestowed upon it by somebody that I don't particularly love, but we're going to mention the name Zillow. Zillow's not a great place to get the price of your home.
Why don't you like Zillow?
We just did that. But Zillow does look at communities all across the country, and they gave a special distinction to Palmetto Bay this year. Would you like to tell everybody what that's about?
Yeah, so they call it the Millionaire City. I'm calling it the $1 Million Home City. We were the only city added. Florida lost, I think, 3 cities, and 1 city was added. That's the village of Palmetto Bay.
Palmetto Bay!
Yay! And what's that defined as is that the average home is approximately $1.02 million in the village of Palmetto Bay.
You got approximately 1.02?
Yeah.
So what it really means is that this little Palmetto Bay, where there were, homes that were probably in the $200,000 range when they first incorporated, we're now averaging over $1 million
That's right.
for a home in Palmetto Bay.
I was telling somebody I purchased my home for around about $187, and now look, and I live in a relatively modest home in a regular neighborhood.
Not anymore.
We have
You're a millionaire
much
home.
bigger. There is a home in my neighborhood that was on the market for $2.95 million. $2.95 million.
Do you think it was worth $2.95 million?
I don't know. I never got to see the inside.
Okay.
It's being rented right now. So
okay, got rented.
Yeah, for $15,000 a month.
I know.
Yeah,
it's
that's
insane.
Crazy. Yeah.
But let's go to one of the big issues that is being discussed these days. There is a plot of land that FPL had been using for a very long time with high intensity lines overhead, way up overhead. This is east of 77th Avenue and at 140th Street. And so there's approximately 6 lots, if it was buildable. There are about 6 lots that could have been single-family homes there that for the longest time has been natural, right?
Yeah, it's a couple acres.
Yeah, it's a couple acres. Recently, there's been discussion about how to develop that because FBL said, we don't need this to be protected anymore. I don't want to get into the details. I want you to get into the details. Sure. Over the last year or so, things have happened with whose ownership of that and what's the stewardship going forward.
Sure. So let's double back to the $1 million home because this is an important piece of it. The village of Palmetto Bay is the village of parks. We know, as a realtor and as I got to say, as a past resident of the village of Palmetto Bay. I think you're in a neighboring area now. We won't mention that. We won't mention that. Joe's city, my mentor mayor's city. We know that green spaces really increase home value. So I kind of couple that with the reason why people move to the village of Palmetto Bay. They move to the village of Palmetto Bay because of great schools. We have amazing schools in the village. 15 schools in 8 square miles.
Yeah, a lot of private schools.
A lot of private schools for little people. Schools affiliated with churches like Old Cutler Presbyterian and Christ Fellowship, and then schools, preschools, and then of course our amazing public schools And then we've got some really large private schools that people come from all over Miami-Dade County and Monroe to come into the village of Palmetto Bay. We've got some of those schools have Palmer Trinity, Westminster. They have students that come from
Monroe. Even.
Monroe.
Wow.
Monroe. Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
So, cool. Well, it's the same probably as driving from, where Miami Beach. They've got students that live in Miami Beach. So there's a lot of traffic involved probably with all of these pickups and drop-offs. But why people move to the village of Palmetto Bay: recreational opportunities, green spaces, parks, schools, places of worship, and more young folks, young families moving to our community, which is pretty cool. So well over a year ago, actually, we pulled up a resolution from 2018 that was signed at that time by the then mayor to take a look at this parcel of property, talk with the county, and kind of negotiate, because these are considered surplus lands. At that time, they came back, as I recall, with a price point of $85,000. So one would think that the price point on that would go up, right? People are paying over $1 million for a home, a little empty space. You would think
a couple of acres of land.
Price actually has gone down. They were willing to sell it to the village for $14,000. Yeah.
I didn't hear that figure.
Yeah,
That's pretty staggering.
I was going to reach out and see if you wanted to get together on this, but
we should have.
So back in December of 2023, we got a letter from the then person that was overseeing ISD, the Internal Services Department for Miami-Dade County, saying, hey, and this resident has done some outreach and applied to be the sole proprietor of this property, the purchaser, because the county rules make it so that only one person can purchase.
Okay.
So you can't have 5 or 6 residents in this case all get together and say, my name and my name and my name. It's got to be one person purchase, and then they can figure out how they're going to divvy it up after the fact. They asked, are we interested? And we had 10 days to respond. Since we had this 2018 resolution, I spoke with the manager. He sent off a letter within the 10 days. Little bit of exchange and emails at that point, but then silence. Tried to look for the individual who I know her now, gratefully. Had the opportunity to meet Cassandra Padron, who was the one that had put in to purchase the property. Look for her, but I couldn't find her, and I won't go into the details why, but the house wasn't, you can look for property under a name, but the house wasn't, it was in a trust, so I wouldn't have had any way of finding that.
You mentioned that the county can't sell to a number of people. They have to sell to one.
Right.
And it sounds like underneath Cassandra, there were several other people that were going to then divvy it up after.
Right,
she
5
had
houses.
acquired.
It's 6 residents, 6 homeowners. 6 properties, right? Because more than one person lives in each of those homes. So, we later find out, and I'm going to fast forward to just a few months ago, when we were at a committee meeting. We find out that, conversation with the county, and I get it because it's a big entity, right? They were still talking with Cassandra while they were speaking with us. So in their mind, the process was moving forward with them. In our mind, the process was moving forward with us. And so there was that little bit of, miscommunication. When we went to the committee meeting, it was moved from the commission meeting to go back to the committee meeting. And from there, we were able to kind of present our design for the area to create a linear park there. That committee, chaired by Commissioner Raquel Regalado, said, why don't you all go out, come up with something that everybody can live with, kind of a split the baby, if you will, but do some kind of compromise, and then come back to us with that compromise.
Just to be clear, the compromise is between the village and who?
Well, the village and the property owners.
The property owners that would be contiguous to it.
And let me rephrase that, because the county owns the property right now, but bring back a plan to the county that would be a compromise between both parties, meaning Cassandra and her neighbors,
right,
and the village of Palmetto Bay. So that's pretty much what we've done. They filed a letter with. They met with ISD, met with the commissioner's office, Cohen-Higgins, and they presented, what they were hoping for, which was a 50-50 split. And we met on the 30th of May with the general community, because ours are public meetings, a little bit different from
Village Hall.
Yeah, got to have it open and noticed, etc. We showed them the design for the plan. They were requesting 50%, and that's what we've done. We've kind of shifted everything. They'll have 50%. We'll have 50%. I think that is about as good a compromise,
a good split.
And that was what they were asking for. Yeah.
Okay. And again, just to kind of put some visual ideas into the audience's head, when you say 50-50, we've got backyards from one block that are contiguous with this acreage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And those are the people that are looking for their split, right?
Yes.
So their backyards become deeper.
Correct.
And then the linear park would be what's right up against the street.
It'll be pushed out a little bit. Originally, the original design, when you're creating a plan, doesn't everyone kind of put everything in the middle, right?
Right.
So that was the original plan. We just pushed it out a little bit, so it's a little bit closer to 140th. Being able to have that 50%, and also providing them the other thing that they wanted, which was a buffer, right? Meaning to kind of push it as far back from their property as possible. And I think we've accomplished that. But at the end of the day, the county will decide. And frankly, I think it's super exciting. On both ends, right? Had a little rough start, miscommunication. It's great when you're able to dialogue with folks and come to some ending that maybe not everybody is like, yay, but it's a compromise. Right. And I think at the end of the day, that's what life's all about.
With the 50% of the land that the village is going to put in a linear park to, what are the features that people can look forward to? What are
a pathway and landscaping, essentially. Okay. Maybe a bench. There's no real design set in place at this point, right? It's very simply what you would see like west of US 1. County's been very involved in creation of linear parks. So just being able to have some connectivity. We had one resident that came out that's not one of the 6 homes, but their home fronts. They look at the property, right? And you've seen it.
Yes.
The property it's not beautiful right now.
No,
right?
It's a bunch of scrubby stuff.
Rocks. But it's currently public space. People, walk their dogs on it. They play. We've seen tons of pictures of people, playing football, flag football, and different things. There's public access to it right now. One resident came out. Her husband is a paraplegic, and I thought it was pretty powerful just to be able to, hear her speak on his behalf, saying this will be a safe place. Currently, he does his exercise on the streets, and we know Palmetto Bay doesn't have a lot of sidewalks. Another touchy subject, right? Some people want them. I think your old neighborhood had a sidewalk, if I'm recalling correctly.
No, actually we didn't.
You didn't? No. Okay.
Yeah.
So, then you're on the street. But listen, things are changing. We've got, more and more cars coming through different areas, and we're trying to accommodate both the safety and well-being of pedestrians, bicyclists, as well as the streets. The streets were made for driving. So
very briefly, this plot of land where we're going to have a linear park, a lot of people would love to see a way for that to be incorporated in a way for somebody to get from point A to point B, running east to west across the village. And does the linear park assist in that happening, or is it really its own little island that we're going to make a lot nicer and people can use it better than they can today, but it doesn't really make a connection?
It's actually a great point, because our request is really to see if we can get the remaining folios, which are actually south of this one. We were focused on this one,
right?
But if you look south, there's a straight, like this is an L shape.
Yes.
A lot of people have seen the maps,
and
but
right at the point of the L, we've got a street that runs through it.
It's 141st Street, and then on the other side is more space that connects to 144th
with a canal on one side.
With a canal on the south side then of 144th. It makes its way around. There's a bridge on 144th, and there's so the answer is yes, right? There's a sidewalk there. There's a sidewalk on 77th. The school, Howard Drive, is right down the street, right? This is at, let's say, 141st, 140th, 136th, where there's, a safe space, sidewalk space for people to walk or ride, to be able to get to school. Would one consider it a safe route to school? I think perhaps we could say that it was, but at the end of the day, it's really just about creating as much connectivity, which people enjoy. They want to be able to have, even if you're just making your way in that same space, right? Little exercise space. 144th then takes you to Old Cutler Road, which is a bigger connectivity there.
Yeah. So we've got good things to look forward to there.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
May 30th, you had a bunch of input from the public.
Yes.
Is there another opportunity coming up in the near future where people can go and say, hey, I'd also like to see this?
I think it'll be back at the committee meeting. I don't know if there'll be a public opportunity to speak because the county does things a little bit differently. I don't know if you've gone down to speak, but you don't just, you speak at committee meetings.
Yes.
And if it's already been spoken to, sometimes you don't get a second opportunity for speaking to it. So we'll see. I'm sure they'll hear at least what the compromise was. Will we be the ones that get to share it? Not 100% sure. We'll wait to hear, what their protocol is and follow their protocol as best we can.
All right. Since we're on the topic of linear parks, and the village of parks, let's talk about Coral Reef Park a little bit.
Yeah, more exciting stuff going on.
Recently, one particular tree was getting a lot of interest, right?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
And really, I had a conversation yesterday with a journalist, and the comment that he made at the beginning was, the residents are claiming victory. And I said, and they should. I mean, at the end of the day, what is government for, right? We make policy, right? There's that. So we make budgetary decisions. But at the end of the day, just as we would with a pothole, just as we would with a sidewalk, just as we would with green space, you have to kind of connect with residents and be able to hear what is going on, right? And
what's the compromise
what's the compromise exactly? So good news, tree is saved. Very simple solution, but I give a lot of credit to a few folks. A couple came out on June 3rd. Jim Woodard, I don't know if you know Jim, but longtime advocate for all things environmental, including his beautiful peacocks. And Henry Clifford, which is the chair of our tree board, spoke to the manager after that particular meeting. The manager was leaving on a well-deserved vacation out of the country from June 4th, and I had to I will not bother. No, but I spoke to him before he left and said, hey, when you get back, a couple of things. So the morning of June 8th, he had an email in his inbox before 8 a.m. Letting him know, hey, don't forget, I want to double back on these couple of things. And of course, this majestic tree was one of them. We had a quick virtual meeting with staff. As I mentioned before to you, I'm at work during the day. So I met with everyone virtually, kind of talked it out. I said, why don't we go to the location tomorrow? Let's see if we can get the engineer, the design team in to take a look with us.
And I want to take a pause because I think I did a slight disservice to the audience. We're talking about a tree in Coral Reef Park, and there's a plan to put a community building in the area. So
we can talk about that too.
One of the things, we're going to get to there, is that this community building was going to require the removal of this as you put it, majestic tree.
Well, it actually requires the removal of several trees, and there were several meetings.
One,
I mean,
yes.
This didn't just crop up one evening and then, this has been a process, right? Every facility, and I will say that I do believe that the parks in Palmetto Bay, I don't know about beyond Palmetto Bay, but I think it's really a good thing to have indoor facility space. And if you recall from many moons ago, the facility space that was there.
Calling you old?
No, but you were maybe more engaged with Palmetto Bay because you lived there, right?
Yes,
residents in Palmetto Bay are super engaged. It's one of the things I love about the village. You're going to know if you're headed in the wrong direction. Somebody's going to, somebody's going to let you know. Yeah. So, and that's good. And if you're headed in the right direction, people are going to let you know that too. So it comes both ways. So way back, we tore down the old community room. I believe she was about 60 years old at the time. It was an older room. It was condemned, torn down. Unfortunately, as things would have it, we didn't have money to build a new space. Then COVID came. We had a change in administration, right, in the manager.
Sure.
We had an interim manager, COVID, new manager, Nick Morano, comes in, sets the ship straight financially. We are really on very good financial standing, and I think that's important because we've had a budget of 21 million dreams, I called it, this past year. We had a $21 million budget, 5 million of that connected with this. It's a little under 5 million, but I'm rounding up.
Okay.
With this community, this they're calling it a multi-purpose room. The old word was rec room from back in the day. You're not as old as I am, from back in the day. But to create a multi-purpose room, just a few years back, it would have been $1 or $2 million. So obviously, we know COVID has really changed
costs,
a lot of
labor,
costs. Yeah. So we put it in the budget. Everybody supports it. Back in October of 2023, 5-0 vote. We know trees are going to be impacted, but they're going to work to save trees however they can. This location is picked, actually said in the report, to do the least impact to vegetation. In addition to that, and you and I were speaking a little bit earlier, it's kind of like that hub space. You need to have, if you're going to have a facility, you have to have parking. You can't put it back where the
right.
Well, should we call it the $1 million hot dog stand? Because I know you had a little bit of involvement in some of those conversations, but in the concession area, which is more in the heart of, nobody's getting dropped off.
Tennis,
it's a good connect, honestly. Yes. And I'm being funny, but it's a good connect for the space that it is, that it's supposed to be working with, right? The ball players, the folks that are walking on the path around the area. So in any event, October, we pass. We know there's going to be tree impact, but we don't have any design plan to say, hey, this is the impact. Little bit later, we saw the design plan. It was actually May 20th. We have a project review. Unfortunately for me, and of course, no, not making any excuses, but I wasn't there because I was at the American Flood Coalition. It's one of the few meetings I have missed. And it was a zoning hearing. There were 3 or 4 items, but this was brought up during the capital improvement project portion. And so June 3rd was when my ears perked up when I heard, Mr. Woodard and Mr. Clifford. And then from there, save the tree. So the tree, you will know the tree. You will. I don't know if everybody will, but one of the probably I'm not going to say it's the oldest because I think there's some that are a little bit older.
One of the largest, for sure.
Definitely one of the largest, yeah. There's some on the canal bank that are pretty large, too. But if you remember walking up to the tennis center, the old tennis center office, it's the tree that was right there. Yeah. It is the tree where people would sometimes take cover as well. Probably not a smart move during August. But, she's got some beautiful limbs. So the good news is we go out with the engineer. We weren't able to confirm it until yesterday morning. I went out on Tuesday. They said, give us 24 hours. Let's get the arborist, the survey individual out there just to confirm. And they are going to move it just 10 feet to the north. I believe I said west before, but northwest, a little bit to the north.
Great.
Still going to be tree removal, but this tree will remain. And then, just to have some fun, because you got to have a little fun, we did a tree naming.
Okay.
So we put that out to the community. They've got until Sunday. They can log into our social media. Listen, it's like everything else. This will get, people will love it. People won't like it.
Right.
But I will say, in my opinion, she is a beautiful tree. I said, let's name her Mother of All Oaks or Mother Oak. That is not one of the 5 or 6 choices, and lots of people have sent in their own special names. So
there's some cute ones that you mentioned.
There are some, yeah.
You also mentioned while we were talking about the tree that you were, for some period of time, your attention was elsewhere. The Flood Coalition. Give me a very brief.
Sure. So,
what are you doing with flooding and Palmetto Bay? Because there's some good news there for homeowners too, right?
Well, I'll tell you, there's some really good news, especially for the village of Palmetto Bay, and also I would assume Cutler Bay, because they've been working on their CRS score, which is Community Rating Survey. I was on the Glenna Milberg show, and she was like, "Well, what is that?" And the only thing I can say is like a deep formula or recipe. There's a lot of pieces to it. We are one of a few cities that have a sustainability and resiliency coordinator, and she is the one that oversees, along with a consultant, this CRS score. We've moved down to a 7. We're on our way down to a 5. It's currently at 15% in flood insurance premiums, but even I'm going to set that aside if I could, because we have spent in the past few years, we've received over $5 million from the state to help with infrastructure, and we've matched those funds. And yesterday, I was so proud. I spoke to the manager this morning. He does a drive about, especially when there's really inclement weather. I had one area where I got an email from somebody that said, hey, this is a problem. We told them, sit tight. It's not, it's going to recede. And when it recedes, because we've done some drainage in the area, when you get flash floods, the water is going to rise. The good news in Palmetto Bay, all of that has paid off, because these really spots where every time it rained a little bit, we were seeing some big issues. We saw the water raise and then quickly recede. Great. So it is good news for the village. American Flood Coalition's a nonpartisan organization. I serve on their advisory board. And it's really about bringing one voice to D.C. So we had the opportunity to meet with a number of congressional representatives for South Dade and all of Miami-Dade County, and be able to talk to them about how important funding and policy are, especially to our communities. And we've seen it over the course of the last couple of days, how important it is.
Wonderful. So good news on flood, and even better news in the future for premiums for people for flood insurance.
Better news is just around the corner.
I'm going to finish our interview with great news.
Oh, no. I want to keep going.
As long as it's good news. The 9th year for the Palmetto Bay 4th of July celebration coming up right around the corner.
It is. July 4th is it's less than a month away.
Isn't it scary?
Yeah,
how quickly the year's going?
It is.
But you're expecting 10,000 people to show up?
Well, that's what we've seen in the past. I'm going to assume we're going to kind of head in that same direction. This year, you'll see something much the same. I can't spoil. I don't want to be a spoiler alert, but next year you might see something.
Not even a teaser?
No.
Wow.
You'll have to have me back on.
I will. I will.
And plus, things have to, I'm one person, so I want to make sure that we do things appropriately. We're looking at some other really good ideas that might be a little bit more connected with this beautiful environment that the village of Palmetto Bay has. And we're kind of outgrowing this little location, right? Downtown Palmetto Bay.
Yeah.
Right. So that's, but I hope you'll be there. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
I plan to be there this year. Last year I was away. and I really missed it because,
I remember.
You know, this little village of ours, this little $1 million home village of ours, puts on a hell of a show.
Yeah, it's a beautiful community. You know, we're really trying our very best to keep as much sameness. I say, you know, that old commercial, the fabric of our lives, cotton, right? We want to try and keep the fabric of our lives. People want the village to remain a village, but we got to kind of move with the times and mitigate some of that. And I have to just throw, if we've got, I don't want to turn around and look. I'm super excited. This past Saturday, I was installed as the 2024-2025 president for Miami-Dade League of Cities. So it's a big deal, and I'll tell you.
Good job.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Not so much for me personally, although I have to say, in many respects, it's kind of like a little small pat on the back for work well done over the course of the last 9 years. But I hope that this piece that is Palmetto Bay and all the magic that's there, be able to take a little bit of that magic to the other 33 cities and be able to kind of connect with the county, because at the end of the day, I think we all want to be able to have home rule, preserve that, but we have to figure out a way as the 34 cities we are to be able to connect with Miami-Dade County.
Yeah, and I've already seen the League of Cities do very good things about just communicating as a holistic viewpoint to the county so that things can be done for the municipalities that are in it. Yeah, it's just wonderful. So I'm glad to hear that. I think it's great news.
Exciting. Thank you.
I'll just point out one other thing, because they're friends of mine. Cutler Stew is the band that's going to be performing on the 4th of July.
Yay.
They are great.
Yeah, they are.
Don't miss them. Karyn, thank you so much for coming by and giving us the update on Palmetto Bay.
Awesome.
All right, and we'll see you next week.